Dans La parole est à vous, nous vous proposons de décrypter aujourd'hui les enjeux en matière de cybersécurité au cœur des systèmes de vidéosurveillance. On écoute Wayne Dorris, Business Development Manager Cybersecurity chez Axis US.
There are a lot of aspects that go into the system design to make a video system secure. First of that is the requirements for the system. Depending on the application that the video system is going. As you can imagine, the security requirements for a retail store are very different for, say, an energy production plant or a military operation. So depending on the system requirements, you will make selections to see if the manufacturer or vendor can meet the requirements. And once that's done, you will now want to evaluate beyond that the cyber maturity of the vendor themselves. In other words, how are they going to communicate for vulnerabilities? How will you get notices for that? Do they offer tools for patching, updating software and firmware? What is the schedule for that? And then more importantly, on a system aspect, a camera is one part of the endpoint, and then you have the video management system. So you have to make sure that they are compatible. And you want to make sure that the updates also correlate together, because you don't want to get into a problem of where you update the camera firmware and then it no longer works with the VMS and now your system is down. So it's very important to get that coordination up front and then apply the same IT policies that you do for your IT network for the video system. So managing users, certificates, what encryptions you're going to use, get that all lined out up front. And then you also have the system integrator, so you can give them the requirements to say, hey, when you install this project on our network, these are the requirements that we need. And then after that, understand, is it the end customer that's going to take care of the maintenance, or is the integrator doing that as a service, so that the system stays up and secure and you're not always having vulnerabilities and at risk for attack for that. Zero trust is a interesting concept, right? So it's to some degree it's a buzzword, and there's no certain specific thing that says this is zero trust. But what it's predicated on is the fact that you, instead of just having one external firewall, you have multiple segmentations in your network for zero trust. So the first thing in a video system application is to understand what is the segmentation for the video system. Will it have its own firewall? And for the identity and access management part of the system, how will the devices authenticate for those policies? So at Access, we've done a lot of work in this area. We've implemented our Access Secure Element, or Edge Vault as we call it, and it's a secure storage for certificate and keys. And we have an Access Device ID. So at the time of production, this ID gets put into this very secure chip. And with that, we're able to validate and say, yes, this is an authenticated access device. So in a zero trust model, the identity and access management system would have a policy. And with that policy, when this device boots up on the network, it would say, oh, it's an access camera. Oh, I have a physical security VLAN. I'm going to put this device on this provisional VLAN to secure it while I'm getting the certificate signed for it to actually authenticate for my network, and then I will move it to the appropriate VLAN for that. So the other thing with zero trust is the continuous monitoring the behavior of the camera. So integrating things like the remote syslog so that other systems, whether it's your CM or source system, can also know, hey, this device has some anomalies with it, we should probably alert it and make that an IT event and not just a physical security event. So there's still a lot of work to be done in zero trust, and most of our major customers are, I would say, in the beginning development stages of their zero trust implementations, but we're working hard at Access to ensure that our devices can work with whatever their vendors are for a zero trust implementation. City surveillance, it's a very important vertical for us. And when we look at it, the challenges there, you have law enforcement, you have safety, you have traffic, and so you have multiple stakeholders in a city that want to use video to manage the city processes better. So the challenge is, how do I share all this video securely, safely, And also when we look at where we're going with the cameras doing more than just giving you a picture, with analytics for AI and machine learning on board, then you're also looking at that metadata. We have to secure that metadata to ensure when we're sharing it among these systems that it's also not going to be a vector for attack. But more importantly is to, much like I talked about earlier with system requirements, what are the encryption levels that are required for all the multiple stakeholders, right? So if law enforcement has certain needs, if the city has certain needs, if the traffic authority has certain needs, you have to ensure that you can encrypt correctly between all the systems. And one of the things that also gets overlooked in city surveillance, because you're integrating all these disparate systems for the use of the city, a lot of them will use APIs. And APIs are another big vector of attack for cyber criminals. And a lot of the APIs also use privileged accounts, because I'll either use the root account or the admin account. So getting that password for an API kind of allows me to get to multiple systems. So it's a very important aspect from the cyber attack. But from a city standpoint, you have to ensure that all of these things are secure. The other challenge is that you run across a bunch of different topologies. You'll be on wired networks, you'll be on wireless networks, mesh networks. And so you have to look at the bandwidth and the amount of security across all of those different topologies and make sure that everything hands off correctly. Otherwise, the city will have invested into a system, and these sensors and cameras are providing data, but if somebody attacks it, then they can't see what's happening on the roadway. That can cause a problem, and we don't want to be a vector for attack.